Okay, so this is the need of the research paper. Any questions? Hope I'm audible to you all, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so do you need a specific skill to write the technical paper? What happens is there are different writers, they write it in a different way. But it is always for the technical paper, it's always recommended to write it in a very good quality, right? So just remember that you no need to write a very complex sentences whenever you write a paper. The simple sentences, it will work a lot. Okay. So simple words, simple sentences, and very easy to understand by any naive users. That is most important. So just see to it that when you're writing a technical paper with a good quality, you have to concentrate on the brownie points. The brownie points about the technical or the research paper is whether your work is recognized in a reputed journal. So if it is recognized in a reputed journal, or maybe some good conferences, then in that case, your work will be cited in the good places, like maybe a Google Scholar citations or a Scopus Index citations, or it could be a Science Citation Index. So there are various indexing that is there. So maybe I'll just throw you few tips about the citations. So based on that, what happens is your paper, your work will be read by more and more readers. Okay. So as they read more, your paper will be cited more, right? So that is the basic thing. So that your work can be, maybe there could be some pitfalls in your work that can be recognized by some other researchers or the technical writers, and then they can apply with some new technology, they can overcome those limitations. So if you see the global view of publication in science and engineering, okay, so there are n number of journals, multiple journals. There could be some fake journals as well. So be aware of those journals. So always prefer that when you're publishing your work, okay, let it be in a good reputed journals like UGC approved or Scopus Index or Web of Science or some kind of citation index like Science Citation Index and so on. Okay. Now if you see, there are more number of papers which are getting published day to day, and it crosses more than million, right? But among these papers, hardly, if you see, only 50% or 40% of those papers are cited. That means it is read by the other readers and they referred it for their particular work, okay, project work. So what is the difference, okay, when you are publishing it in a good reputed journals or the high impact journals or the low impact journals? So if your idea is really something innovative or novel based, it has some kind of novelty, then definitely it will be recognized by a reputed journals. Otherwise, if you just modify a word or maybe a particular technology which doesn't goes well with the other publications, so that is the difference between when you are publishing the work in your good journals. Okay, so when you have done the research, okay, so you understood that, for example, let me consider one problem that there are more and more number of plastics, okay, so plastic products, so the waste that is getting generated in India, for example, okay. So now you want to find out like how you can, if you want to, as a computer engineer, you want to do the plastic footprint analysis, okay. So in that case, first you need to understand what work the other researchers have done till now, isn't it? So you need to study the existing system, compare, just identify their advantages as well as their limitations, and then you try to come up with your idea. Okay, so what type of solution that you can provide which may be better than the existing solution. Okay, so the quality of the work, that should be the state of your mind, and it should be the great findings. Any good science or good technology, that will be the great findings. And when you have some kind of novelty in your work or some innovation in your work, better to publish it or report it in a maybe kind of publication, or maybe you can make it as a patent. Okay, so it depends like what type of work that you have done and how you want to communicate with others. So let us start with the good plan. That is, first we have to relate the paper with what is the scopus of our problem statement. Okay, so you can consider any one problem statement, and based on that you have to define your scope. Okay, so very specifically. And then after studying the existing system, you sort out the best methodology which you can apply and overcome that limitations. So you should be technically as well as the way that you write, express it, it should be a quality one with a sound information, which technically sound, it should be there in the content of the paper with all the supportings of your implementation results, findings, etc., with a proper discussion or the conclusion of your entire idea about the existing problem statement. So let me explain it with two different steps. One is reading the technical paper, right? So do you think that you need to read a paper before you start writing it? How many of you say yes? Let me see how many of you say yes. You can just write yes in the chat window. How many of you agree that you need to read a paper before you start writing it? Only one, two, quickly three. Yes. Good. Yes. Now, how to read a paper? Very good, very good. Good response. So let me discuss, or let me help you how to read the good technical papers from which resource. Very good. So if you want to get the good papers to read, just visit the reputed journals. Okay. So let me show few journals. Say, for example, sciencedirect.com. Okay, so that is one of the websites where you can find the good reputed journals in either in science or in any kind of technology. Again, specific to your area of domain. Okay. See, for example, in this website, I would like to get the paper that is related to my problem statement. For example, fake news detection. Okay, so if I'm just searching for this, I'll get a list of papers. Okay, the research articles which you could see here, the temporary evolving graph neural network for fake news detection, or may some other methodologies. And when it was published, the latest one, usually it will be listed in the top. Okay, so you can see the list of papers which you are able to. So how you want to think that, do I have to read all the papers? Suppose if you're heading 100 papers based on that particular topic, do I really need to read all the 100 papers, or I have to choose 20 papers among the 100? How am I going to do it? That we'll discuss it. And then whichever paper you want to read it, you can download that. Okay, so there could be some access restrictions. So we have the solution for that as well. So as our institute have provided the best option of accessing all the journals using the Nimbus portal. So you can log in with your college email ID. Okay, so I've just logged in with my college email ID with the password. Okay, so once you register with that, and you can check for any particular problem statement or any kind of research paper. So here again, I have used the same keywords, that is fake news detection. Based on that, I can see the list of papers, that is maybe from IEEE Explore. So from different journals, which you can go through it. There are n number of papers are there. You can just traverse those papers and you can read it. So if you would like to read any of this paper, then you can just select the read paper. And sorry, I think this paper is not available. Maybe something else which we can. So we'll see to it that, okay, so something which is similar to, okay, so now here we can see that a deep learning perspective based on the fake news detection. So you can read this paper, whichever the paper you want to read it, okay? So this is one way of getting all types of journals through a single platform. So which was provided by our institute. It's an Impulse. Hope you might have received this details from the VESIT library. Otherwise, you can just register with your college email ID and you can get it. Okay, so this is another way of accessing the papers. Or if you want to go to a specific, journals, then you can, that is also another option. Say, for example, how we did it for Science Direct. Similarly, you can go through IEEEexplore.com and you can search on a specific keyword, set of keywords, and then you can look out for the papers. Otherwise, the other reputed journals like Springer Link, again, I've searched with the same keywords. So I can see the list of, the papers that has been published in the particular book. Okay, so this may be a book chapter. And how you would like to cite it. Suppose if you have read this paper and you find it good, which is more relevant to your work, and then finally you need to add it in your references, right? In your technical paper references. So the citing, even adding the references which has a specific format. So better you have to use this kind of standard format when you are adding the references in your technical paper. Just you have to click that link and then take the copy, paste. Otherwise, another option is you can go to researchdirect.com. One second. Sorry, it is ResearchGate. Okay, so here also you can just go through it and you can search, you can just register with your details, okay? And then suppose if you're looking for some paper that is related to fake news detection, you can just search it. So this is again all types of journals which you can get it over here. So if you would like to read any specific type of paper, then you can just go through this. Okay, you can choose any particular paper. Yeah, so this paper, it's like we didn't add the, yeah. Okay, so this is one of the research paper, that is a fake news detection and analysis system. You can also get the full text, and if you want to download that paper and if you would like to read it, that is another way of reading it. So these are the various ways that you can find out for the best papers from the various reputed journals. So why we need to read the papers? Because we should know that what is the current research which is going on. There is no meaning in reinventing the same thing, right? So that is the reason we need to read the current existing work which was carried out by other maybe engineers or the researchers, right? Why no need to read the papers? Can I read everything? As I told you before, when I search for a particular set of keywords, I'll get hundreds of papers. Now the thing is that whether I should read all the 100 papers or not, isn't it? So reading everything, which is also not recommended. Now then, are you saying that is must to read? Yes, it is must to read, but there are certain things where you can eliminate. Okay, so among the 100 papers, let us decide, just read the abstract, the top few set of papers you can think about it, which is more relevant to your case study. And then accordingly read the abstract first. If you feel that it is more appropriate with respect to your case study, then you can just download the entire paper and read the proposed idea or what is the methodologies that they have used. So that way you can think about it and choose the papers. Okay. And then you can store it in a separate directory. Okay, these are the set of papers. These are the 30 papers which I found it to be more relevant to my case study. And as you add all the papers, you can also put your checklist in the Excel sheet. These are the 30 papers which reference how it should be cited or referenced in my technical paper. So you can make a columns and then keep adding your set of papers which you're reading it from the various journals. Okay, now what to read? That is what we have discussed now. It should be always recommended to read a better or the good conference paper or a reputed journals, or some cases you may get a research group. Suppose a particular research group for a healthcare domain, okay, then PubMed or some specific research groups are there. So where you can just fetch the data and fetch the technical report, and that is also more relevant. And otherwise, you can read some survey or the white papers. And more technically, yeah, there are different IEEE personal communications or the newsletters of ACM. Those are the different resources which you can refer to read the papers. Okay. So what you are supposed to note it is, when you read a paper, just first read the abstract. So once you shortlisted the paper, just find out like what methodology that they have used, okay, which data set they have used, okay. And in addition, you see that what are the limitations, how their result is there, what is their final conclusion about their work, okay. So these are the few things about which you have to note it down. So read it once or more than once if required, okay. And as you read the papers, please note down the important points, okay, in your Excel sheet or maybe in your notebook, anything which is making sense to you. Now let us see that you understood the importance of reading the paper. The second important step is writing a technical paper. Where do we begin? Are you really confused? Anyone have any idea how to write a paper? Anyone? What is your idea? How to start writing a paper? You should write the introduction first, or abstract, or conclusion, or literature survey, or related works, or your implementation. What should be the first one? Where you are going to begin? Yes?
Introduction.
Introduction. Okay.
Abstract.
Abstract. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Which is easy for you to write it? So you all are doing SC mini project, right? If I ask you to write a technical paper based on your mini project case study, which section would be easy for you to write it? Is it introduction, or is it abstract, or is it something else? How many of you say that it is introduction? Yes, Suraj. References. No. Yes, you need to read the paper. You have to note it down. Maybe you can make a Excel sheet, spreadsheet, whatever the papers that you read and you find it more and more relevant with respect to your case study, you can note it down and you can cite it also in your paper. That is fine. So that we can do it as you read the paper. Someone raised the hand, right? Suraj, you have any question? Okay, fine. So the more I think, the more I confuse now. It's very simple. So before we start looking into what are the different sections that should I start writing the paper, what are the various types of technical writing? Either you can write your research paper, the research article of the work that you have done, and you want to share your knowledge with others. It may be in the form of research paper or article, or it may be in the form of report. That is, you want to write your project report, okay? Or maybe your final postgraduate thesis, or maybe your PhD thesis, etc. Or in some cases, you may need to write a proposal or a research project for funding also, isn't it? For the research grant. Or the last option is if you want to convey your idea, or if you want to register your innovation, okay, innovative idea in a reputed place, then another way is that register a patent. Okay, so these are the different ways where we need to understand how to write the technical paper. So remember that your whatever the findings that you have done in your work, let it be a very solid findings with some novelty or originality, rather than copy pasting it from various papers and preparing a one new paper which is not going to help out. Okay, so the most important structure in the technical paper is introduction, material. I'll say what are the important subcomponents in material, and then results and discussion. Yes, first you need to give a basic introduction about your work, and then we'll see some set of components which is to be defined as materials. That may be your related work which you're discussing about the literature survey, or your methodologies, your proposed idea and its methodology. Okay, and then results and discussions. So you have executed your idea, you made a prototype, and whatever the output that you observe, so which you need to discuss it, and you have to infer like what is the conclusion you would like to convey to the readers. So that is the important structure of any technical paper. So the attributes, if you see, it should be more concise, like a story. You need to write a paper in the sense that it should be technically sound, as well as it should be in a good flow. The entire flow of the paper is also should be very proper, and try to avoid the grammatical or any stylistic errors. Okay, so technically it should be sound enough. Now, basically for writing the manuscript, I mean the paper, you should be able to answer for this 4 question, what it is that will be conveyed through the introduction of the paper, and what you do for that. Okay, so that will be your methods, and what you found out from your implementation or the execution of your idea, that is your result, and what does it infer. Okay, so what does it mean actually? So that is the discussion. So these are the 4 important parts or the sections of any paper, technical paper. So to start with the writing process, we should have follow this 4 important steps. Just put the outline first, and then make a draft of your technical paper. Once the draft is ready, get it revised. Either you revise it by yourself first, and then you can send your paper to your mentors or maybe some seniors or professors to revise the paper. So once the paper is revised, then if required any corrections, then you need to do the necessary corrections before you submit your paper to some journals. Okay, so to create an outline, okay, I have to perform a basic research, and based on that I need to have a brainstorming within myself, or maybe within my team members, or maybe with my supervisor, etc. And once that is done, you might have sketched out the important points, and basically based on that, you need to organize your points in a incremental fashion. And then finally, once your draft is ready, wherever you need to add the headings, subheadings, or figure, captions, table, etc., that should be added properly. Okay, now how do I choose the topic? So choose the topic is I cannot say that I want to write a paper on machine learning, or I want to write a paper on artificial intelligence, which is a very broader domain, right? Or rather, okay, I want to work in some kind of uh, case study. You can consider any case study. Okay. So based on that, as we know that during the pandemic situation, interacting with this thing, okay, luckily we have this Google Meet, all those things. That's on online platforms. But suppose if you think that there is no virtual platforms are available, then how would you have interacted? How the classes would have conducted? So let us think what could be the possible solutions for this. Okay, so how I'm going to provide the solution? What are the methodology that is required? Is any hardware is required or only software would be sufficient? Okay, so what are the other existing methods? Compare with it, its limitations. Okay, and then you come up with your own idea. Okay, so try to narrow it down your topic as much as possible rather than taking the very broader topic. So how you are going to narrow it down? Suppose if I have to do a disease management system, if I have to develop a disease management system. When I say disease management system, it is a very broader topic. For which disease am I going to do? Am I going to consider every disease? That means there are more number of diseases are there, isn't it? And do I have the knowledge about all the diseases and gathering the information about all the diseases? Is that is feasible for me within this 1 year period of time? No, it may not be. Then again, you narrow it down. Okay, let me start with a specific disease. Okay, that is done. Next, okay, is that diseases maybe it is there for all age groups, maybe kids or maybe adult or maybe elders. Now let me concentrate on a specific user groups. I want to concentrate for only kids group, okay, or maybe for elderly group. Okay, that is next thing. And next, even you can narrow it down. Okay, so for whom should I develop such type of solution? Whether it is for the rural people or the urban people, or is it for all the developing country people or suffering more, or is it all including every country? So again, you have to narrow it down. So that narrowing, it is again based on the problem statement. This is just an example which I've told you. So similar way, based on your idea or based on your case study, as much as you narrow it down, that much simpler your work would be. Okay. So once you're done with that, then you can start reading the papers relevant to it. So do the survey part and then you come up with your idea. Okay, understand. Or if you have some idea, then that is also fine. You can sketch your idea and to start with your actual work, you need to still have some idea about the existing work, isn't it? So you need to read the papers. Okay. And then once everything is been narrowed down, you just make a simple outline with all your ideas and your proposed methodologies. So maybe for narrowing it down, if you need to do the brainstorming session, even that can be done. So brainstorming could be either you list it down in your paper or you do a free mapping, okay, just to find out, okay, if I do this solution component A to B, C, B to C and D, something like that. Or maybe you have to find out the sources, how I can get the proper knowledge to make a complete choosing of the topic. That is also fine. So once that is done, then you have to put it in the logical form, find out the relationship among the ideas in a very ordered view. Okay. Define the boundaries and the groups. Okay. So there may be 100 problems there in the existing system, but you have to narrow it down. Okay. And you have to define the scope. So strict to the scope of your project. Okay, if you have defined that I'm going to, through my project idea, I'm going to satisfy only these three objectives. So just strict on to those three objectives. Okay, how you are going to achieve those three. That's all. Don't go away from the topic. Okay, so start early as much as possible. Okay, as you outline your idea as specific as possible, then it will help you out to draft the paper. Okay, and the most important tips is don't include many subheadings. Okay, maybe in a paper you can have six headings or seven headings, for example, or maybe 7 to 10 headings. And within a heading, okay, suppose if it is your proposed architecture, then within that heading, maybe you can have 4 or 5, or maybe max to max 5 to 7. So don't include, or some people, what they do is, in a, say, for example, I'm writing a section 3, which is my proposed idea, 3.1, then again 3.1.1, then again they'll write it 3.1.1.1.a. Don't keep on adding too many subheadings when you're writing any kind of technical paper. Okay. And in some cases, okay, you have drafted the paper, but still later on when you are reviewing the paper, you find that I need to change some outline. Fine. That is also fine. Till the day that you submitted, or even till your paper get accepted finally before it get published, till that time you have the time to change your things. Okay. So if required, okay, if it is most essential thing, then you can change it. So take sufficient time to read it and then edit it. Okay, so with whatever the points, you have to just chunk it, and then you are supposed to integrate together in writing the paper. Now let me come up with actual points, okay, how the basic manuscript will look like. So let us start with the abstract, and then introduction, motivation, okay, and whatever the literature survey or some related works which you want to discuss it over here, with the proposed idea and the methodologies, implementation steps. Okay, so how you have done the experimental setup. Okay, if you have some hardware, then you can define all the hardware components and how that has been connected with each other, etc. If it is only the software, then you say that what softwares you have used, what is the processor that you have used, whether you have used a high-speed processor, anything, whichever that you have used for your project work, which can be specified in the implementation setup. And then the results after the execution of your idea, the results, well, with the proper graph or the table, which you're supposed to add it in the result section. And then finally, you have to discuss the results. Okay. And at the end, yeah, you need to conclude the paper, what you understood, okay, from the basic idea. And then finally, if you want to define the future work, okay, maybe in your current work, there may be some limitations, which you are planning to do it in your next work. So that can be highlighted as a future scope in the paper, in your research paper. That is also fine. So let me come with each and every point, what you are supposed to write it in the abstract. When you say abstract, it is going to give you an overview, isn't it? Overview of your entire work. But remember that the overview cannot be written in a two-page or maybe in 3 pages. It should be maybe only maximum, we say 250 characters. In some journals, they accept only 200 characters. So you think that how you're going to cover up your entire work within this 200 or limited 250 characters. Just remember that you have to include only 2 sentences, say about your problem statement. Okay, so what is the current scenario with respect to disease management system or with respect to fake news detection system? So what are the limitations of the current work or the existing work, which you can highlight it? So max to max with 3 to 4 sentences, you can close it. And then the remaining, more than half of the abstract, which should highlight about your proposed work, or what is the objective of your work? The main objective of my work is, don't use my, we, are, all those things. Try to avoid that. I'll give you the tips at the end. So better you write it, the main objective of the proposed system or the proposed work is so and so, point A, point B, and point C. And to satisfy this, to get this thing, I have used the methodology A and methodology B. Okay. And which, then what I have to say, okay, so I have given my idea, that is what is my proposed idea, what methodology that I have used, and then I have to say 2 lines about the result. Okay, so this is what the result which I got it after the implementation, and this is the conclusion which I would like to, this is the statement I would like to infer from my work. So only that much you have to cover up in your abstract. Okay, so within a limited number of characters you have to complete the abstract, and it should cover the entire work. Okay, so please, what you are supposed to write it, state the paper objectives and the scope, describe the methods, and summarize the results with the basic principal conclusion of your work. Is that as clear to you all? Any doubt till this, or should I proceed? Shall we continue?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So please remember the most critical part, because if your abstract is not a quality one, your paper should not be read by many readers. If you are writing a novel and if you are publishing it, what is your expectation? Rather than earning a money, your expectation is more people should purchase your book, more people should read your work or read your book. That should be your main intention, isn't it? Similar way, when you are writing a technical paper, when you are sharing your work with others, by reading the abstract, they should feel like, okay, so really this paper has some content into it, okay, sound knowledge. So let me read this full paper. So let me download the paper. So that particular thing you should bring it while you are drafting the abstract. So which is the most important section in any technical paper. So it should be mostly, it should be informative, indicative, as well as it reflects the main story of your entire article. Okay, so that is the only chance which you get the reader's attention. So please write it in a very simple language. I mean, with simple sentences. Okay, with a very crisp, concise, and accurate way. Please put it everything in a clear manner. Okay, so that is the basic requirement, how you are going to give the overview about your entire work. Now, the number 1, that is sections, will start from the introduction part. Okay, so in the introduction, you have to describe about the nature of the problem. Okay, so when I say disease management system, I have to say, let me read the World Health Organization, because that is a standard organization. They give the yearly reports, isn't it? Even in the pandemic situations, they have come up with their whatever the updations that has been published in their report. That is a WHO report, World Health Organization report, right? Similar way for other type of work, they'll put it in their technical reports. So if I'm doing some kind of pollution related work, or the climate change or waste management, anything, something like this, then I can read the technical report which was released by the Pollution Control Board. So the Pollution Control Board, we'll have the Pollution Control Board for each and every state, as well as in a centralized manner, right? So either you can visit the state PCB website, or you can visit the central PCB website to get their technical paper. Sorry, to get their reports. What does it say? How much waste that is generated in Chembur? How much waste that is generated in Maharashtra? How it in turn affects the air pollution or other pollutions. If you are doing flood management, so you refer to that corresponding organization, technical things, technical reports, their actual annual reports, and then understand the nature and the scope of the problem. So which you have to highlight it in the introduction section along with the author's contribution and the literature, few lines about the literature study. Okay, so that is how you have to define the state, your method of investigation, as well as justification in the introduction part. Maximum you can write it. Again, how many pages you should write it? If it is for the conference, most of the conference, they'll restrict with 6 pages maximum. If it is a IEEE format, then you have to use the 2-column format. Otherwise, it is a single column format. The other journals, if you consider Springerling or Elsevier or what do you say, ACM journals, if you consider, they use a single column format. And IEEE mostly 2, and even in some other conferences, they use the 2-column format. Depends, whatever the journal or the conference that you are going to choose it based on that. So based on the number of pages that accordingly, you can sketch your work. Okay. So introduction, describe the problem. What is it? Mostly we'll be highlighting about the broader context, that is with respect to the report, which you discuss based on the nature of the case study or the scope of your case study. Along with the why is it interesting, why you have chosen this, okay? So what is the necessity in choosing this problem case study? So those all things which you have to highlight it, along with the contributions, what is new in your idea, that is a novelty, okay? And how is it benefit to the society, okay? Or benefit to the other end user, okay? And how do you know that how you are going to evaluate it? So these are the basic tips which you have to add it in your introduction section. Okay. So max to max, you can write 2 or 3 paragraphs. Max to max, 3 paragraphs. Okay. And at the end of the introduction section, it is always recommended to give an overview about the remaining sections of your technical paper. You say that the section 2 describes the literature survey, section 3 describes the proposed idea along with the methodologies that is used in the proposed system, and then section 4 describes the implementation setup details, and section 5 describes the results and the discussion, and finally the section 6 concludes the paper, the work of the idea. Okay. So that way you can include the last few lines at the end of the introduction section. And now the second important part, which is about materials and the methods. Now we need to study the existing work so that you can sketch it in the related works or the literature survey. So you identify the more relevant papers, the latest papers, you can read it from various journals or the conferences. And based on that, please give their highlight about their work with their advantages or certain limitations. And then at the end, you have to highlight with respect to your proposed idea at the end of the literature study. Okay. And that will be covered up in the related work or in the literature survey. And then you have to define about your proposed idea. So what is your the entire flow of the system with an architectural diagram or a conceptual diagram, or maybe a detailed diagram which you can explain your complete flow of the work. Okay. So whatever the data which you are going to use for your experiment, and then whatever the observations that you found. So these all things should be collectively mentioned in the materials and the methods. So that is going to answer for this 6 types of questions. Okay. Who, what, when, where, how, and why. Okay. So that will cover up your section 2 literature survey, section 3, which is about the proposed idea along with the methodologies, and section 4 experimental setup along with the implementation, results, and the discussions. So these all things, whatever the algorithms you have used, techniques you have used, what is your design strategy. So this all comprise within this materials and the methods. Okay. And then the second last part of the technical paper should be the result. how I'm going to define the result, either in the form of GUI. If you have designed some GUI, then put the screenshot and you explain that what does the GUI represent, but again, put it in a proper flow. If it is a prediction model which you have generated, then in that case, okay, what data set that you have used, what are the pre-processing techniques that you have applied, is there any optimization techniques you have used, then what is the result of without applying the optimization technique, and after applying the optimization technique, how my model was trained, is my what are the various performance measures I have used to evaluate my model, is it only accuracy or sensitivity, specificity, or error rate which I have considered, right? So these are the few evaluation parameters which you have to consider it. And these all things should be the result section. Result and discussion section is the most important section in your technical paper. Okay. You may ask you, is it only if I implement the work, any project, and then I have to write a paper? No, even that is not compulsory. Suppose if you have some idea for some existing solution, you can also sketch up with your proper diagram that this is a flow, this will work in that way, with your all the research contributions which you can highlight it about your proposed idea. That is also fine without the implementation. Okay, maybe in that case you can just consider some case study or scenario, and you can say that if this is applied according to my proposed idea, it will work properly. So I'm sure that it will guarantee to provide a better solution, something like that, which you can write it. Okay, suppose if your work includes a result, then please formulate it in a proper way with your better figures, tables, the necessary tables, with your proper caption, okay, and with a clean description in the result section. That is mostly important, and try to avoid more text, especially in the result section. Rather, you add it as a graph or the figure, or what do you say, table. Uh, that is mostly recommended, especially in the result section. Okay. So see to it that proper numbering should be used. Okay, 1, 2, 3 from the top of the paper, along with the caption, proper captioning, and you have to mention that like which figure, according to the text description, it should refer the figure or the table, whatever that you have used in the paper. Okay. And the discussion is the most hardest section, we can say, because you have to give the proper justification about your work. Okay, with all the results that you accumulated. Okay, so with that, you're trying to summarize your result with a good interpretation and proper justification for the work. Okay, so try to avoid what do you say, don't write it in too many texts, but even within a paragraph, you should be able to cover up the complete summarization of the result with your proper justification. Okay, and the final thing, conclusion. So always remember, abstract and conclusion always go one along with each other. Whatever the stuffs that you have specified in abstract, the same thing which should be there in the conclusion. See to it, it is not the same sentence, copy paste, even that is not supposed to be there. Here you have to specify the summary of your entire work with the experimental results, just one line or maybe 2 lines. Okay, so with that you can conclude your paper. And as I told you, with respect to the references, you have to follow certain format. This is for example, if you consider IEEE Explore, IEEE papers or Springer papers, this are the format. Usually it will be the author name first, and then followed by the name of the paper, and then followed by where it is published, which journal, and along with the year, edition, and the ISSN or ISBN numbers, depends. Okay, so now how you are going to start writing the paper? Begin with the conclusions, right? So begin with the conclusion and describe how you got that result by describing your entire proposed idea with the methodologies, and then give the theory about your literature survey, introduction, etc. And finally you can come up with your abstract. Okay, and As I told you before also, please use simple sentences and short sentences. Okay. And then once the paper is drafted, then you can revise it. So you yourself read it loudly for twice or thrice to know the mistakes. Okay. I'm not talking about only the grammatical mistakes, maybe the technical mistake, anything which you can note it down and you can do the necessary changes accordingly. Okay. Now you have written the paper, but the most important aspect in writing the technical paper is you need to follow certain ethics, right? The first and the most important thing is about the plagiarism thing, which you need to remember. Even when you are reading it from some paper, you're not supposed to copy paste the two sentences from paper one and put it in your paper. You try to understand what they have inferred in their paper and you write it with your own sentence. You write it by your own sentence. So plagiarism should be completely avoided, or don't duplicate the same manuscript, okay, with some change in values or some stuff which is also not ethically right. And suppose if you have 10 papers, you want to get more and more citations, don't do unnecessary citation within your same paper. Okay, so try to avoid the unnecessary self citations, because I need to increase the number of citations. So whoever I know, I'll just say that you please add my paper into your technical paper and give my citation to me. Don't do that. Okay. And redundant publication, that you cannot place the same paper in multiple journals. So you place it in one conference, wait for the result. If they reject it, then you're supposed to submit it your paper in some journals or conference, whichever you choose. Okay. And author conflict, that is if there are 5 authors or there 2 authors are there or 3 authors are there, more than one author, then each and every author should not have any kind of conflicts. Okay. So these are the basic ethical things which you need to follow. As you all know, what is plagiarism? Uh, you're not supposed to steal others' work. That is simple cut and paste, what we usually do. In for every subject in the class, if you see, only one or two students will do the program by his own. The rest all just get the same code, execute it in his laptop, and then give the result. Only the input will be different, input and output, but the same coding, everything. Right? Similar way, don't copy paste from another paper and then put it in your technical paper, which is not at all recommended, which will be identified by the plagiarism tool. Yes, I would like to discuss about the plagiarism tool also. But okay, when you are reading some paper, you can understand, you can paraphrase it and write it in your paper. Okay. So there is a difference between copy paste as it is into your paper. But paraphrasing is you understood the things and then you write it by your own sentence. Okay. So even if you are copying the 3 consecutive words, which can be easily detected by the plagiarism tools, like Turnitin, there are many plagiarism tools are there. Those are the licensed softwares. Okay. Work and Turnitin. But the other open source plagiarism tools are also available. So the list, sorry. So these are the list of tools, which is so based on this, these are the few open source tools which you can refer it. You can just read it, whichever is. There is some restrictions, like you have to. You can do the plagiarism check only 1,000 characters at a time. Certain tools, it allow you to upload your entire document and then it does the plagiarism check and give it to you. So there are many options. You can choose any of this. Okay, so it's almost time up. I'm just, yeah. So these are the few licensed plagiarism tools, Turnitin, Urkund, etc. And the open source plagiarism tools, that is what I've shown you right now. So you can just go through that. So just final tips. It is like when you are writing the paper, even if you are missing a single comma, okay, that totally takes you to the different meaning. Okay. So like, let's eat grandpa. Let us eat comma grandpa. Okay, so if you're missing the comma, then the entire meaning of the sentence will change. So you should be very, very careful when you're writing the paper. It may be a simple punctuation. So follow the normal American English thing. And even if you didn't hyphenate, it would be ambiguous. Suppose if you see you ordered a 10 speed bike and got 10 speed bikes. Okay. So the difference between the 10 speed bikes and the 10 speed bikes, right? So it was understood in the other way around, and you got all the 10 different speed bikes, okay, in front of your home. So similarly, as I told you, don't use we, are, all those things. Try to avoid as much as possible. Okay, so better you use the active voice rather than the passive voice. Use a simple and direct language. Okay, so if you want to say the ball moved sideways, so this, it's a very simple and easy to understand. Rather, you don't write it to be because you want to cover up the page. So don't write it in the other way around. The object under study was displaced horizontally. Don't do it like that. Okay. So on an annual basis, which you can write it as yearly. So it's a simple and short sentence. Try to use as much as possible. Okay. So with this, I would like to conclude the session. So if anyone have any queries, then you can ask me.
Students feel free to ask any queries if you have.
Any queries, you can place it in the chat window. Is it clear to all? Good. Lavish, thank you. So how many of you are willing to start writing a technical paper now? Yes. How many of you say yes?
Raise your hands. You have a hand button, right, on your mobile.
Yes. How many of you say that now you're ready to write a research paper? Very good. So within a month or two, you would complete the mini project, right? Essay mini project. And let me see how many groups are going to publish the paper. Good response. So thank you all. Thank you to the research team, research forum team, for such an wonderful opportunity to deliver the lecture on the topic of technical paper writing. Thank you, Richard sir. Thank you, Lipna ma'am.
Thank you, Priya ma'am. We are grateful that you were there today.
Thank you.
So I would just like to say that we did not get such opportunity during when we were doing our bachelor's, and that's why
Exactly.
I don't think so. We don't have any papers on our names when we're doing our bachelor's,
Very true. Very true.
and these students have been guided from like the start. So I feel they should take up this opportunity. And I know like most of the SC students, okay, they are not working on the mini projects right now. Okay, it would be better if you get back onto that. Okay, start working on it. It's like 1 year you all are wasting. Okay, instead of that, if you start utilizing this year properly and write a technical paper, that would be great. Okay, the outcome would be really beautiful then. So take the steps that ma'am has given. Okay, we'll be sharing the recording also with you all. Okay, so don't worry about that. Okay, and see to it that we are actually launching an event. Okay, which will come uh, like by the end of Feb possibly. Okay, we'll see as soon as possible we'll be launching it, and that will be a complete competition. Okay, for technical paper writing. So I hope everyone will participate in that in huge numbers, and will get some quality papers in that. So thank you so much, Priya ma'am. Thank you so much,
Yeah. I
students.
would
Thank
like
you
to
so much,
extend my
Lipna ma'am.
thanks. Yeah, I would like to extend
Yeah.
my thanks to the head of the department, Dr. Nupurgiri ma'am, as well as Deputy Head of the Department, Dr. Vesha ma'am, and the entire research team, Sharmila ma'am, Lifna ma'am, and Richard sir. And thank
Thank
you
you
all
so much, ma'am.
students.
Yeah, students, just wait in the chat box. Okay, wait. Do not leave the meeting. Lifna ma'am, can we share the this feedback form?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So students will get a feedback form in the chat window. Please kindly fill that up. Okay, that will be. No, I won't say anything else. I guess that would be better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Shall I leave?
yeah. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you very much,
friends.
ma'am.
Thank you, Lifna ma'am. Thank you, sir. Thank you, students. Have a nice day. Bye bye.
Ma'am, it was
Students,
great that we were having a recording in this session, I guess. Only this
yes.
account has it, I guess. None of the accounts are having one now.
Oh,
Okay.
that's right.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Sir, I'll stop the recording now, sir.
Sure, sure. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.